Another one of those social mistakes that I made back in the day and that I see a lot of other people making is not knowing how to balance out being serious versus being playful, and instead they live on either extreme. So let's go ahead and examine both of those extremes, why they're not working for you, and how you can balance those two out. So the serious personality role is one where you're very rigid and stoic and maybe even easily agitated or angered. You're not looking for the humor in things and you're not laughing at other people's jokes and so on. And I certainly was that way, at least in maybe the first year or so of high school. And so I saw firsthand what the consequences of that were. Most notably, people will be afraid of you. No one's gonna respect you or think you're tough, which is a misconception I had. They're just gonna be scared of somebody that's like that. They don't know if you're gonna kind of blow up in some kind of murderous rage or something. And I don't wanna be perceived that way. Another thing is they might even suspect that you're kind of socially inept, because if somebody tells you a joke and you just don't laugh at it, then it's like, did you understand that I was just joking? I mean, I see that you just couldn't pick up on that. So you're not doing yourself any favors in that sense. And lastly, no one's gonna wanna hang out with you, because somebody that's very serious is just kind of a drag. They're no fun to hang out with. Now the other extreme of this, which is just always being sarcastic and joking around and never taking anything seriously, is just as bad. And I saw the consequences of that firsthand, because that's kind of who I turned into in the later years of high school, because I was overcompensating for having been serious all the time. And I realized that wasn't working either. And so some of those consequences included the fact that nobody really took me seriously. So it was kind of ironic. I mean, on the surface, you would think that everybody liked me because we were having those humorous, fun little exchanges. But the reality was I wasn't getting invited out to stuff outside of school, and I didn't really have any meaningful relationships that lasted even after high school. I mean, I'm lucky in that I still have one friend that I still talk to from high school, but I'm deeply regretful about not having more of those relationships. And another consequence that was pretty frequently recurring was that people would feel kind of disrespected by that. The impression was, do you not feel like you have to level with me at least once and show me the real you? And instead, am I just some kind of ragdoll for you to poke and prod for your own entertainment? So it does come across as a little disrespectful if you're always doing that. And then lastly, it can be seen as a lack of courage, because in a way, being humorous is a way of de-escalating tension. And so if you're always looking for that easy way out of just turning everything into a joke, then it's going to be like, well, you're not courageous enough or confident enough to be confrontational. So it doesn't work in your favor in that sense either. So how do you balance these two out? There are a couple of things you can do. One thing that I like to do more often than not is clarify that I'm just kidding at the end of every sarcastic comment or joke. It's very important to convey that to people as a courtesy, because it might be pretty obvious to you, but it's not so obvious to them that you're not being serious. And even if it is, you still have to show that as a courtesy, because the point is, you don't know how it makes them feel, and you can't be presumptuous in that sense, especially if you're telling jokes at somebody else's expense. Now, on that note, the second thing that I do is I try to minimize the number of jokes that I tell at somebody else's expense. I usually do it at my own expense to kind of be self-deprecating and modest in that sense. And yes, you should watch my video entitled, "Are You Being Too Self-Deprecating?" to balance that out as well. And the last thing you can do is know the time and place, because there is a time and place to be serious versus lighthearted and joking. And so you don't want to be laughing and joking around when you're, say, at a meeting at work, because you want to show your colleagues and your superiors that you care about the work you're doing and you're serious enough to buckle down and get the job done. But then on that same token, if you're out hanging out with friends trying to have a good time, you don't want to be that same level of serious. You instead want to be lighthearted. You don't want to be easily agitated, looking for excuses to get offended or complaining about being bored the entire time or not laughing at anybody's jokes. So those are just a couple things that I do to balance the two out. So in conclusion, if you want to be taken seriously without being feared, and you want people to enjoy your company without laughing at you, then you do need to balance out both those extremes. And the way to do that is by following the tips that I just gave you. So try them out, let me know how they work for you, and I'll see you next time.